Hello. Welcome to what we hope is the first and only virtual Bach Tage. It would be so much better if we could be together, as is usually the case, but this pandemic has forced us to do most everything in exile and virtually, as we are doing today. Of course, things are compounded by the violence that surrounds us here at Mount Olive Lutheran Church, and it's a very devastating scene, and there is much work for us to do. The world needs now more than ever a sense of being together and a sense of peace. And what better way to do that than with music, and with music of J.S. Bach. My topic for this particular session is the Prelude and Fugue in E-flat major for organ, BWV 552, A and B. Why this piece? It really has nothing to do with the cantatas that we are revisiting from 2017. But this Sunday, for those of you that observe the 3-year common lectionary, is the Sunday we call Holy Trinity. It's a day where we center things around the doctrine of God in 3 persons, 3 in 1, as I teach the kids. That would be God Creator, God Redeemer, and God the Spirit. The number 3 is very important to Christians and always has been for the Christian church. The use of this pair of pieces also gives us a chance to explore some of the ways that Bach likely embeds symbolism in his music. And I say likely because he really did never explain anything. He didn't leave us explanations of any of the symbolism that people have proposed over the years. Was it things that Bach did for us to find? Was it, were there these symbols, things that we are supposed to figure out on our own, or were they just simply used by Bach as craft discipline? Something he challenged himself with? We'll never know, and it really doesn't matter because the music speaks for itself. But nevertheless, it's very fascinating to take a look at some of these. In some cases, it's really pretty undeniable. This pair of pieces, the Prelude and Fugue, open and close, respectively, an organ publication, in fact, the first publication of organ music during Bach's lifetime, which was in 1739, the Klavierübung, 3rd edition. Klavierübung literally translate keyboard practice, but one might think of it more as the art of keyboard. 1739, again, the year of the publication of this book, Bach was 54 years old, and 1739 was also the bicentenary of the Augsburg Confession. And there were 3 Reformation festivals in Leipzig that year. Perhaps he wrote it for these. Maybe you, like I, asked the question, well, if this is the 3rd edition, does that mean there are others like 1 and 2? Well, indeed, there were. 4, in fact. The 1st edition is harpsichord music. The 2nd edition, Italian concerto and French overture. And the 4th edition was the Goldberg Variations. The 3rd, however, the one which includes these 2 pieces, is very clearly church and spirituality based. Between the Prelude and the Fugue, which kind of serve as prelude and postlude to the whole collection, are mostly chorale preludes on chorales centered around the catechism. There are, of course, 4 duets included, and we're not sure why that would be, but there's no doubt in my mind these 4 duets probably had some very specific role in Bach's mind. The number 3, remembering that that's kind of a church number, very connected to the Holy Trinity, is very prominent throughout everything about these pieces. In fact, it's Klavierübung 3rd edition. Coincidence? I don't think so. The collection itself, the entire collection, has 27 pieces, which is 9 times 3, or 3 times 3 times 3. Can't be coincidence. Both the prelude and fugue of today's conversation have 3 flats. E flat major. The prelude, and each of the pieces, by the way, has 3 sections to it. And the number 3 is just constantly there. The prelude is like a French overture, also very appropriate as an entree into the collection, an overture. But it has 3 very distinct sections. The first section is very regal, with dotted notes all over the place. And the second section is like 2 people at a very elegant ballroom dance, gesturing to each other and ending with a bow and inviting the other one. It's the one place where Bach inserts piano in the score as if to instruct the organist to go to another keyboard. Markings like that are very rare and often are disputed by musicologists, but these are probably correct. The third section is very clearly German counterpoint. There's a subject and counter subject going in the opposite directions, and it's all very solid 8th notes. 16th. The first section comes back 4 times, and the second section each comes back, and third section each come back twice, kind of alternating from one into the other. But it has a very clean and clear structure going back and forth with those 3 sections. The fugue is really 3 fugues. Again, 3 chunks of music that Bach puts together to create one large work. It's almost a triple fugue, but a triple fugue would combine all 3 subjects in the final fugue, and this one does not. But the first fugue is 5 voice, very broad, mostly white notes, but the subject you might remember or recognize. This fugue has the nickname Saint Anne, in reference to the hymn tune Saint Anne, to which we usually sing, "O God, our help in ages past." It's not likely that Bach had that particular hymn specifically in mind. It could be pure circumstance or happenstance that the music material is the same, but nevertheless it does recall a church tune, doesn't it? And this theme Bach includes in combination with all 3 sections of the fugue. So the first one goes like this. Dense texture that we musicologists often call stile antiqua. The second section, in contrast to the first, the second fugue I should say, moves along much quicker, mostly 8th notes, and it's all keyboard alone, no pedal, and begins like this. So it moves very, very fast, and eventually you hear in the bottom voice this quick new subject, and in the next, my right hand, you'll hear the first theme, "O God, our help in ages past." So he combines them both. The third section is more like a jig. It moves along very quickly in like dance form and with lots of skips, as dance would do. And eventually Bach brings in that first fugue subject, Saint Anne tune or O God Our Help in Ages Past, usually in the pedal with a loud booming bass as the hands manipulate that other dance third theme in many different and various ways. There are many number 3 throughout that we've explored here, which really answer the question, why this piece? The answers itself. On the day where we celebrate Holy Trinity, it makes perfect sense to enjoy the Prelude and Fugue in E flat major, also known as the Trinity, the Fugue also known as Saint Anne. So now that you have been primed, I hope you enjoy the recording, which comes from last year's Holy Trinity Sundays, Prelude and Postlude. So you may hear congregation members talking. That's part of what happens on Sunday, but nevertheless the music is there. Enjoy.